is all about pride. A time to celebrate love, progress, acceptance, and living your truth.
Pride means a lot to me. It means self-expression, being creative, being who you are.
DC does pride big.
You celebrate what you've been able to accomplish, and you look forward to what you still need to do.
We've come a long way, but the fight for equal rights is far from over.
Pride is very important because there are a lot of us that did live ashamed of who we were.
Pride matters.
You are entitled to tell your story and have a conversation about what your experience is.
Some of our neighbors are here to tell you why.
Everyone should be able to be themselves.
Pride means equality for all folks.
Happy Pride Month, DC. You're watching Pride Matters, a WUSA9 special report. And thank you for being here with us. I'm Lorenzo Hall. Pride is a special time for so many, including myself. It's a time to recognize and celebrate all the amazing people in the LGBTQIA+ community. Here at WUSA9, we believe Pride matters, and we were so proud to be a media sponsor of this year's Capitol Pride in DC. Maybe you saw us in the parade. I know it was a lot of fun, and it was great to meet so many of you at the festival. We knew Pride was going to be a big deal this year. It's been a while since we've had a real in-person celebration, all because of the pandemic. So for 2022, we had a mission to speak with our neighbors and have conversations about why Pride matters. So for the next 45 minutes or so, you're going to hear from some incredible people. We're going to talk about the progress that's been made and the issues the community still faces. And we're going to hear from some of you. WUSA9 had a booth at the Capitol Pride Festival, and we turned the cameras on to let viewers share why Pride matters to them. But first, let's go back a bit to the first Capitol Pride in DC, nearly 5 decades ago in 1975. Ivan Kosloff spoke to the man who brought Pride to DC, and he found out this all began at a bookstore in DuPont Circle.
This was us.
For Deacon McCubbin and his husband Jim Bennett, this is a special place.
I have some wonderful memories.
It's the former site of Lambda Rising, an LGBT bookstore, which McCubbin founded in 1974.
The bookstore meant my life, basically, for 35 years.
Right away, it became an iconic gathering place for the gay community.
On a Saturday, right after we opened, there was a guy who came into the store, stood in the middle of the store, and just kind of did a 360 all the way around looking at the wall. And then he sighed and he said, "Home at last."
And it was here, outside of this iconic bookstore, where we can find the origins of the Capitol Pride Parade. You see, some 6 years after the Stonewall riots in New York triggered a new wave of activism nationwide, McCubbin decided to plan a community block party in the district right on 20th Street, outside his shop, set for June 15th, 1975.
On the day that it actually happened, it was supposed to begin at 2 o'clock, and about 10 minutes to 2, there was almost nobody on the street. And those of us who were organizing it were sweating because we thought, nobody's going to come. And I said, don't worry, they're going to come. They're all on gay time. They'll be here. And sure enough, at 2 o'clock, we had 2,000 people on the street.
And here's one of the few photos from that event of McCubbin taking the stage to speak. And from there, the crowds only grew. Here's what it looked like in 1977, the earliest video of the event that we could find in our archives. It brought even larger crowds and even politicians. Then Councilman Marion Barry was there to speak with our news crew, as were many gay activists.
We are making a concentrated effort here to be ourselves, show the public that we're not a bunch of degenerates.
By the early 1980s, McCubbin says there were more than 10,000 people in attendance, and it went far beyond just 20th Street.
It mattered because it was public, number one, because it was a chance to celebrate how far we had come to that point, but also to look forward.
350 angry protesters demonstrated in front of the White House.
And when the AIDS epidemic emerged, taking so many lives in the gay community, the Pride event became a health resource, as well as a place to mourn and grieve together.
1982, we had a holy union. And now we look back at what is a photo album of the event, and
half the people are no longer with us.
And in the 47 years since that first event, a lot has changed. The Lambda bookstore closed down in 2010 after 36 years in operation. And the celebration of today has exploded into a massive citywide event.
It serves the same purpose today that it did in '75. You celebrate what you've been able to accomplish, and you look forward to what you still need to do.
And for the next generation, they offer this message.
You have to be involved. You can't just ride on the coattails of people before yourself. You have to stand up and be counted.
Honesty to yourself and honesty to other people that you love is the most important thing in the world.
And one thing that I noticed about Deacon and Jim is that they laugh a lot, even when they're talking about really hard times. At their store, they've had shattered windows, assaults, discrimination. Deacon has been arrested 8 times for civil disobedience. But they say it was worth it for all the joy that has come out of being true to who you are, and they urge the next generation to keep this fight alive. For WUSA9, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Pride to me means an opportunity to educate, advocate, and elevate the community and our partners and our allies, because this is the time that we are seen for all of our true colors and we cannot be ignored.
That's what pride means to me, just love, respect, and just all of us coming together as one.
Pride means happiness, celebrations, and equality.
Pride for me is freedom.
Being accepted and being able to be accepted with my partner.
One of the things that pride means to me is that everyone is welcome and that we can celebrate what makes everyone authentic.
There has been a lot of progress for the LGBTQ plus community over the years, and that includes marriage equality, but there is still a lot of work to do. And we're going to take some time to focus on that. First, I want to zero in on a tough reality for our transgender neighbors. A lot of them live in fear of being attacked or even killed. Get this, the Human Rights Campaign says last year was the deadliest on record, with at least 47 transgender or gender nonconforming people killed nationwide. And since 2013, HRC says at least 284 transgender people have been murdered, including 3 from our area: Zoe Spears, Ashanti Carmen, and Taya Ashton. Chief investigative reporter Eric Flack sat down with 3 women who survived threats and attacks to stand strong together.
Hi. Thank you for doing this. Why don't you sit down right here and try to get these mics on everybody. By a show of hands, how many of you have been a target of violence for who you are?
They want you to see them as they see themselves, transgender women.
Tell me.
But more than that, just women.
You know, as I sit here today, a 6'3", 250 plus trans woman, it is only safe to say that I draw a lot of attention.
But these women have learned the world is not always an accepting place and can be a cruel and dangerous one too.
I was attacked by 4 men in broad daylight next to a fire station for simply existing.
It was the day before Easter, 2017, along Florida Avenue in Northeast. Monroe Poston, first targeted with verbal attacks.
That's a man. Look at him, who he think he fooling.
Then, physical ones.
As I walked into the store, they continued. When I walked out of the store, that's when they started to throw their hands up and start trying to attack me. And the rest, unfortunately, is a part of my story.
Sadly, the stories of violence against the transgender community are becoming more and more common.
They held me against the wall, like with the gun to my head.
For Kanaya Walker, it happened in 2014 while she was doing what she calls sex work, being paid for sex in Birmingham, Alabama.
So I'm like, should I call the police or should I not call the police? Because number one, I'm black, then I'm trans, and I'm in Alabama.
That same year, threats made against Taylor Chandler shook her to her core.
Wish you'd burn to death, and then they would rape you and make sure that you're dead.
Targeted, she said, after her transgender identity became public.
For straight people, they go out and do stuff and never think that they could be killed or harmed. I think when you're LGBTQ and especially trans of color, you're always thinking that you could be murdered, and that needs to change.
The Human Rights Campaign says the epidemic of transgender violence disproportionately targets black people, with research showing 66% of all transgender murders were black transgender women.
You don't see stories of people that look like me being attacked. And let's be honest, if Caitlyn Jenner was assaulted or attacked, there'd be a task force. But when you have a black trans woman that's attacked or brutally assaulted or murdered, it's a soundbite on the news.
The women told me it's on all of us to end the cycle of violence by treating the transgender community with acceptance and respect, regardless of whether you understand their journey. For women like Monroe, an actress with an upcoming role on a successful cable TV series, or Taylor, about to publish her 4th book, and Kanaya, who is now a counselor in Prince George's County, providing support services to those living with HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections.
You know, just touching one person makes a difference.
I'm someone's daughter. I'm someone's niece. I'm someone's aunt. If you have someone in your life that you love extremely dearly to your heart right now, decided that they want it to be someone else because that is authentically who they are, would the love change?
Now, HRC says the rise in transgender violence is driven in part by a wave of anti-LGBTQ+ legislation and sentiment in conservative-leaning states. Last year, HRC reported more than 130 anti-transgender bills were introduced across 8 states, with state lawmakers passing 13 of them.
Pride to me means freedom.
Pride to me is, you know, it just believe in myself, just be really happy and just really express what I'm thinking or feeling to others.
Pride means acceptance.
Happiness and love. Let's just do that all the time.
A celebration of our diversity and accomplishments. This is about love, acceptance, and everybody being their true selves.
Yes, being your true self is so important at all ages. You've heard of the so-called Don't Say Gay law in Florida. It bans classroom discussion about sexual orientation and gender identity for kindergarten through 3rd grade. And with the current government breakdown in Virginia, some are wondering if similar legislation might come to the Commonwealth. LGBTQ+ students say they are concerned about this. That's because they've seen debates over books, transgender student rights, and pronouns take center stage at school board meetings. As part of our Pride Month coverage, Colby Satterfield spoke with lawmakers to see what the future might look like in Virginia.
We've seen legislation across the country emulating Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill that has drawn outrage and worry from members of the LGBTQIA+ community. Many now wondering, could that happen in Virginia, where political rhetoric dominates school board meetings, leading LGBTQIA+ students to protest back? A bill like Florida's hasn't happened in Virginia yet.
Right now, I think that type of bill has the votes in the House, and if the Senate switches over to a different party, I could see that being the case and having a policy like that signed into law in Virginia.
Virginia Delegate Suha Subramaniam, a Democrat, was a staunch opponent of a bill up for debate earlier this year that sought to eliminate the already required inclusive school policies that address transgender and non-binary students.
No student should have to be skipping school to go advocate for their basic rights.
Fairfax County Public School student Ariane Rawl is a co-founder of the Pride Liberation Project, a student-led Northern Virginia group pushing for inclusive schools, where teens advocate, testify, and rally for their rights as LGBTQIA+ students.
And we're forgetting that schools, they're not supposed to be political pawns. They're supposed to be places for students to learn, places for students to pursue extracurriculars. These bills, they're not doing that. These bills are trying to advance a political agenda in our schools.
It's an issue Raul won't be around to fight for next year as he graduates and heads to college. That's what makes Raul nervous, what the road looks like for younger students, as lawmakers say bills like the Don't Say Gay legislation in Florida could end up in General Assembly chambers. It's something Republican Delegate David LaRocque would support.
So I would characterize it as a bill that would severely limit the amount of time that is spent discussing things like sexual orientation and gender identity in a classroom setting, especially without involving parents, would be a good bill to pass. So limiting it in Virginia, as Florida did, yeah, that would be a good thing.
Some Republican bills focused on LGBTQIA issues have been proposed in Virginia this year.
We saw that a number of anti-LGBTQIA+ bills, including bills to deny transgender students access to bathrooms, bills to ban queer literature in schools, bills to ban transgender athletes, have come very close to advancing in the General Assembly. And so just unlike straight students and unlike our heterosexual peers, a lot of times we're worrying that we're going to go to school one day and a lot of those basic protections that we count on are just not going to be there.
Those proposals failed to make it out of committee, but both Democrats and Republicans agree they could be passed and signed if Republicans take back the Virginia Senate.
What would you say to LGBTQ youth and students who are fearful of more strict legislation or removal of policies put in place to protect transgender youth?
What would I say to them? As I said when we started, we care about all children, and we want all children to be safe, respected, to be shown dignity in the classroom, and that will never change. But promoting those ideologies in the classroom is not something I'll ever support.
I mean, we have to do whatever we can to protect these communities. I know I'm committed to that, and a lot of others on both sides of the aisle are as well.
This is absolutely a life-saving question and a life-saving political debate that we're going through right now. And I just hope that policymakers stop paying attention to opinion polls and stop paying attention to elections and instead prioritize actually protecting the well-being of the students that attend their schools.
In Northern Virginia, Colby Satterfield, WUSA9.
Pride means just being who you are and not being afraid to show your real self.
Pride matters to me because I grew up in a conservative neighborhood and I can finally be myself.
Every human being can live, as the Constitution says, equal protection under the law. I believe it.
Accepting everyone for exactly who they are.
Pride means love.
Pride is celebrating family.
Pride to me is celebrating the education, diversity, inclusion that comes with our community, and it's not just limited to this month, this celebration, but all year round.
Up next, we are putting a spotlight on another real issue for those who are LGBTQ. Eric Flack is back and explains how some of our neighbors don't have a safe place to stay.
I was at a really, really long rock bottom.
When Tessa Jelani was 22, she had no place to go home to.
Dad rejected me because I was gay. He tried to say it was phase. I was battling my identity because I thought I was just a very feminine male.
Tessa is a proud trans woman, but when you don't know where you're gonna sleep at night, living with your truth takes a backseat.
I'm battling my own self while also trying to take care of, my surroundings. It got to a point where I just couldn't take it no more. And I had hit so low that I almost tried to take my life.
She was in and out of shelters in DC, shelters that would fill up almost every night. But Tessa is not alone. In a city where almost 10% of residents identify as LGBTQ, in the unhoused population, that number jumps to 40%.
We see people come in who are really lost, that have been through a lot.
Keith Pollard works every day with unhoused youth for SMILE, a DC organization that currently houses about 60 LGBTQ youth in the city. SMILE's Hansi Stokes spoke with our Matt Gregory.
An LGBTQ identity adds this extra layer of, it opens you up to employment discrimination, housing discrimination. Those are all things that when you enter our program, we help you address.
Tessa is one of SMILE's success stories. They not only gave her housing, but guided her to be self-sufficient and empowered. It was peace of mind to continue to find herself.
It gave me room to now start figuring out who I am even more. It gave me time to take my mental health seriously. I am 25, going on 26 in August. I currently have my own apartment.
And she's giving back, now working with Us Helping Us, an LGBTQ healthcare nonprofit.
There are spaces for us. Own your space. Own who you are.
Own your space. If you know someone who needs help finding a place to stay, we've posted a link to those resources on our website, WUSA9.com.
Pride means supporting my daughter.
Pride matters to me because I'm married to my wife, and without pride and activism, we wouldn't have legal gay marriage.
I want my son to grow up in a better world than the one I grew up in.
Pride means being proud of yourself.
Living your authentic life so others can too.
Marriage equality and equality for everyone.
Being yourself and living to the fullest.
Pride matters for every letter in LGBTQIA. So let's focus on the B right now. Our bisexual neighbors, they are fighting for visibility this Pride Month and every month. We spoke with 3 people about their experience coming out. Rafael Sanchez Cruz has their stories.
Stigma.
Why don't you just pick a side?
Myths.
But a lot of people don't believe that bi people exist.
Bisexual people say they experience isolation and misunderstanding about their sexuality. A lot of that comes from something advocates call bi-invisibility or bi-erasure. something that stems from people's tendency to think in black and white terms, no gray areas. David South sums it up this way.
We don't like things that don't fit into a box. As bisexuals, we kind of live on the verge between, homosexuality and heterosexuality.
And that way of thinking leads many to assume someone is straight or gay, disregarding entire groups of our neighbors. And that's hurting the mental health of bisexual people.
When things aren't discussed, you get the message that is not, there's something wrong with it.
A 2017 report in the Journal of Sex Research found bisexual people had higher rates of anxiety and depression compared to their gay, lesbian, and straight counterparts. Jean Bjorn came out as lesbian in 1978. It's only recently that she's come out again, this time as bisexual.
I realized that I needed to come out to myself as bisexual, that I have always been bisexual. It's been so difficult coming out as bisexual that there were a few times that I just said, I can't do this. It was sort of like I should go back in the lesbian closet.
There have been situations where I've had to either defend my stance of bisexuality or explain what it is.
Maroon May J. Salil says she's sometimes dismissed because she's in a relationship with a man.
I know for a fact that when I bring him to certain LGBT events, unless I'm very dressed up, I will get mistaken for an ally.
David says a lot of bi invisibility centers around a lack of bi representation.
I wish that I would have known more people in my life, or celebrities, or characters that were bisexual men, and that would have helped me realize that this is how I feel.
Dr. Stephen Forsell, director of GW's LGBT Health Policy and Practice program, says erasing bisexual erasure would ease the isolation and stigma around bisexuality.
You are entitled to tell your story and have a conversation about what your experience is.
It's not about who I'm with, it's about how I feel and how I identify.
Rafael Sanchez Cruz, WUSA9.
What pride means to me, it means having pride in yourself. It means being proud of who you are and being proud of doing what you're doing.
Not having to hide behind a facade of what society thinks is right. Being able to just be true to yourself as whatever you are. May it be lesbian, gay, pan, transgender, non-binary, whatever. It's okay to be you.
Love is love, and it doesn't matter who you care for.
It's important to feel safe in a community like this. That's what pride means to me.
Freedom, acceptance, love, feeling safe in my city.
For me, pride means acceptance and just equality for all.
Pride's just extremely important in continuing to accept all Americans in just the wonderful ways each and every one of us are.
In focus now, erasing the stigma. For decades, the federal government has banned gay and bisexual men from donating blood. Now, rules have somewhat relaxed, but with ongoing blood shortages across the U.S., some say more needs to be done. As Matthew Torres shows us, there's a groundbreaking study taking place right here in D.C. that's hoping to change the policies.
Despite the pride beaming from Christian Morris.
I also remember what it felt like for my gay peers to be told to get off of the bus.
A memory wanting to help others lingers like a dark cloud.
Oh, you're sexually active with men, well, you can't donate blood. And that was really traumatic. In high school, I remember that happening.
350 angry protesters demonstrated in front of the White House.
Stemming from the HIV epidemic in the 80s, the federal government had an outright ban on gay and bisexual men from donating blood for decades. Despite advances in science and the ability to test donated blood for HIV, the policy now is still restricting.
This is actually a relic from a discriminatory policy from the 80s.
As of 2020, the FDA allows gay men to donate blood if they haven't been sexually active for 3 months, replacing a 2015 rule that required abstaining from sex for 12 months. Now, Morris and others are hoping to make a change by participating in what's called the Advanced Study.
The Advanced Study is hoping to provide evidence to repeal the current ban on sexually active men who have sex with men from donating blood.
The FDA is funding the pilot program to determine the actual risk of gay men donating blood. 8 cities, including Washington, D.C., are participating in the Advanced Study. Out of the target goal of 2,000 participants, 1,300 have enrolled, and they're still looking for more.
I think that the FDA's intent initially was to protect the blood supply. What they really needed to do was come up with a way to screen potential donors that didn't categorize everyone in the same way just based on what's your sexual orientation.
Whitman Walker Institute in D.C. helped with the study's planning. The study consists of a survey, questionnaire, and a blood sample. Morris is working with the Institute to get more volunteers.
What are we finding so far, if anything, yet?
I know the science hasn't come out yet, but we're showing that there's not a lot of correlation between what we assume was risky behaviors these days and actual HIV prevalency rates.
Participating is your voice being heard. Big change that's been a long time coming.
It's only the first step that could overhaul a decades-old policy, left over from the early days of an epidemic when sexual orientation served as a scarlet letter. In D.C., Matthew Torres, WUSA9.
And by the way, the event study is still looking for more participants. If you're eligible and you want to get involved, you can find an article with all that information on our website. And you know, we have some more perspective on this story right now. This year is the 35th anniversary of the AIDS Memorial Quilt at the National Mall. Here's Matthew again.
Standing by the shadow of the Washington Monument.
Let's open it up this way.
A symbol of a dark time in our nation's history unravels again.
This is 8 panels. There we go.
Stitched in pain and loss.
You can do whatever you want within 3 feet by 6 feet. And people have done whatever they wanted.
This block of quilt panels is a reminder of what was for Mike Smith.
It still kind of chokes me up to look down this mall and think about what we were able to accomplish with covering the whole thing in fabric.
Timothy Miller.
James Calavari.
At the Washington Monument, friends and relatives of AIDS victims recited a seemingly endless list of names.
Smith was one of the founders behind the Names Project AIDS Memorial Quilt.
Lloyd L. Long.
Reverend Tom Davis.
John C. Moore.
35 years ago, the first display on the National Mall honored the lives lost to the AIDS epidemic.
Jim P. John P.
At a time
These are the names of our dead.
when their names were neglected.
We had to fight very, very hard to even get the quilt open. Ronald Reagan had never even said the word AIDS. There was no money being spent at NIH on any sort of research or therapy. Us being able to bring this quilt out here blew the lid off the topic.
A solemn but loud gesture of protest and support.
Some 2,000 panels.
From 1987 till 1996, the quilt kept growing.
Scott Lago.
The most, commemorating 48,000 victims.
We had panels from every state, and about half of them had come from mothers.
His son was Richard, and he was an electrician with his father. Something is missing.
Joe Hartney.
Will never return.
Who had made a panel and shipped it off to us so that their child, their dead son, could be part of something like this.
Can you count how many friends you've lost?
At least 40. At 40, I stopped sort of keeping track.
The epidemic was hard to avoid for many like Randy Pumphrey.
For a lot of that time, I lived in death. I didn't live in life.
He was a chaplain at a hospital in D.C., witnessing countless final moments for strangers who were once full of life.
One of the docs in trauma would say to me, "We call you in when we fail." I would sit with somebody as they died, sometimes because their families had just left them.
Eventually, one of those patients would be someone he knew, like his friend Bruce, who just celebrated his 27th birthday.
The person in the back is Bruce.
But as his health rapidly declined, Pumphrey created a space for his family and boyfriend
Tommy.
to say their final words.
I remember saying to Tommy, "We're getting really close. You need to go and say goodbye to him." And Tommy did. And he held on to him, told him how much he loved him, and how much he was going to miss him. Tommy collapsed into my arms and he said, "I will never hate you so much in my life for making me do that." And I said, "Today you could hate me as much as you want. But what you just did was really good."
Bruce, just one of countless stories.
This panel says, Marlon Riggs, lights, camera, action.
Woven, painted, and sewn in a quilt.
Marlon was a playwright and an actor.
Hugging you with the comfort that 35 years later.
C.K. III.
Stephen Albaugh.
My friend Congressman Stuart McKinney.
Their names are still being remembered.
Daniel Sotomayor.
For generations to come.
That's our legacy, is passing that torch of solving community problems.
In D.C., Matthew Torres, WUSA9.
Pride means to me that we're all God's children and we all loved by everyone.
Pride means being free to be who I am without anybody judging me or putting me down.
Visibility, both for our community and for our children. It's for standing up for the rights of our children.
Pride means to me is just feeling safe and being able to be around other people who are like me and maybe even help our community more.
Pride matters to me because it helps me be my most authentic self.
Love is love, and everyone can do whatever they want to do with whoever they want to do it with.
and be union proud.
Gay bars are a safe space for the LGBTQ plus community, but believe it or not, there are only a handful of lesbian bars in the United States. At least 2 are in DC, and one of them just opened. Adam Longo gives us an inside look at As You Are DC, and he spoke with the incredible women who made it all happen.
We always have coffee, we always have booze, and we always have food. But up here immediately it's like bumping, like full dance floor.
Right on.
And from the jump, we've had people in here just soaking up the good vibes and making it their own.
You all are one of the few lesbian bar owners in the whole country. Why is that such a big hurdle to get over?
I don't think women are taken as seriously as business owners.
Of course, it takes a ton of work to be a small business owner, and there's a lot of pride, obviously, that goes along with that. Now, on Pride Week this week, who's more proud than these two? Joe and Rach, they just opened the As You Are restaurant, bar space, club, lounge, nightclub.
And this space is a community hub first and foremost, and it's for the community to do what they want with it and what they will, and we're here to keep them safe as they do that and give them the opportunity to come as they are and live.
We're concerned about safety. We care about our community and the most marginalized of our community, so everything is informed by everybody's safety.
We have a dance floor upstairs that is only a dance floor on Friday and Saturday, so it gives us every other day of the week to put people up there and bring them together and connect them, whether it be Cornhole League with DC Fray or bingo nights. We also do a Drag King show every second Sunday. They're like, finally, oh my gosh, we deserve this. Finally a space that's not booze-centric, because so much of queer events are centered around booze and partying, which if you're a member of the queer community or know any history of it, a lot of times those are coping mechanisms to deal with the trauma that we experience just simply by being ourselves.
Congratulations on your success so far. We wish you all the best in the future, and have a great Pride Week.
Thanks.
Thank you. Happy Pride.
Pride means equality, equality for all folks, everybody.
Everyone should be able to be themselves 100% of the time. Everyone's truth matters.
Be proud of who you are, being your authentic self, being comfortable in your skin, not being afraid to be fierce, fabulous, butch, queen, masculine, femme. It doesn't matter, just be you.
If we aren't allowed to be who we truly are, then we can't flourish as people. We can't really contribute to society. We can't build communities. We can't thrive in a way that we were clearly meant to.
We need a society in which people, everyone, is appreciated for who they are and for the gifts that they bring.
We are all special, and we all deserve respect.
All right, so as you've seen throughout this special so far, everyone in the LGBTQ plus community has a story to share, and that includes Riley Knox. You might know her. She's a well-known performer and has thousands of followers on Instagram. So why does pride matter to her? She opened up about that to our Darren Haynes.
Hi, I'm Riley Knox, fashion designer, entertainer, and the #1 Beyonce impersonator in the world.
Riley Knox is a transgender woman, and as a Beyonce impersonator, she's taken the world by storm.
Apparently it's packed. Yep, it's packed.
She's also a fashion designer.
I know you guys remember this.
Actress, and even won a VMA award with music superstar Taylor Swift.
Shut it down. We'll shut it down.
But before all of Riley Knox's success, life wasn't easy. Riley Knox was born in Hartsville, South Carolina. As young as Riley can remember, her family rejected her gender identity.
I don't have any really fond memories of my childhood. I was very girly, and every single day, all I ever heard was, "You're not a girl. Stop sitting like that. Stop talking like that. Stop walking like that. Boys don't do that." I would pray for God to take this away from me. Please, take this away from me. Make me, whatever. And then I became suicidal.
Thankfully, Riley chose life, and she found a new life in our nation's capital.
I just thought, I gotta get away from these people. I gotta get away. in order for me to become who I wanted to become. And then I moved to DC at 19 and was just like, oh, this is what I am. This is really what I am.
Washington, D.C. sort of saved your life.
That's why I'm still here. It changed every single thing. The single greatest thing I ever did was to move out of the South and come to DC. And then I realized that the thing that I thought held me back was the thing that set me apart. Dance like no one's watching. Dance like everyone's watching.
On March 6th of 2020, during a Washington Wizards game, Riley became the first openly trans woman to perform at an NBA game.
This was huge for every single little boy or little girl who is questioning who they are or that they're different and don't understand why people don't understand them. I remember being that kid. I'm just so overwhelmed. This was great for us.
What does pride mean to you?
Pride is very important because there are a lot of us that did live ashamed of who we were. I had to create this life for myself because it was either this or death. For me, it was like if I didn't do this, I was going to end it all. And I thank God that I didn't. Thank God I didn't, because I would have never known how sweet it actually is.
Yeah, there's another incredible story that's important to share right now. Admiral Rachel Levine is breaking barriers. She's our country's Assistant Secretary for Health, and her appointment to this role is historic.
I received the COVID-19 vaccine.
Admiral Rachel Levine is busy leading our country's response to COVID-19 and other health issues as Assistant Secretary of Health. Before that, she was a longtime pediatrician and leader of Pennsylvania's health department. Admiral Levine has attracted global attention, not just because she's dedicated so much of her time to helping others heal, but because of her history-making moves.
I was confirmed twice more.
She's the nation's highest-ranking openly transgender official ever confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
On this vote, the yeas are 52, the nays are 48. The nomination is confirmed.
And the first openly transgender four-star officer.
I am proud to follow in my father's footsteps and two of my uncle's footsteps in serving this great nation.
Aside from her role protecting the public's health, Admiral Levine says she has another duty that's just as critical, protecting those who are transgender and encouraging other leaders to do the same.
I am speaking out publicly, vocally, frequently. The Secretary has spoken out. The Surgeon General has spoken out. Our President and Vice President have spoken out about this issue. So we continue that public advocacy.
Advocacy, but also demanding action, like she did at the state level. Here's Admiral Levine standing by Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf as he signed an executive order banning gender expression or sexual orientation discrimination for all state employees and contractors.
I am very grateful to be celebrating Transgender Day of Visibility here at the White House.
For Admiral Levine, this is clearly personal. She's consistently attacked and mocked online, even during her confirmation hearing, all because she's transgender.
Well, what I worry about with the challenges that I've faced in my confirmation and other challenges is not that it affects me personally. I am very able to compartmentalize those issues and then to sublimate those challenges into my work. What I worry about is what it means especially for young people. And so I think that what it does is spur me to work harder.
Admiral Levine says her role is a reminder of what's possible, but is complicated by politics. More than a dozen states are attempting to pass laws targeting those who are transgender, from participation in sports to limiting health care. What do you say to the people who don't share your views when it comes to gender?
I want to educate them that LGBTQI+ people, transgender people are like everyone else. We are working for the common good. That's what I'm trying to do in my role as the Assistant Secretary for Health, and just trying to help people. And hopefully with that education, they will fear less. And I think if they fear the unknown less, then that will help them on their role towards tolerance, acceptance, and really developing a welcoming environment.
We are making strides towards improvement.
Even with the mounting issues, Admiral Levine says she remains hopeful it will get better for those who are transgender.
We continue to face challenges, and we will continue to face and rise up to meet those challenges.
Pride means that my sister, her wife, and their 5-year-old can live with the same freedoms that I have with my husband.
It's about being able to be your true self, and especially for the younger generations, like my niece.
and it's for everybody.
Everyone should be accepted for who they are and who they love.
Everyone should have the opportunity to love who they want.
I'm happy I can live in my truth and just be me.
When I was growing up, I didn't see much gay people like anywhere, like maybe a little bit on TV and that was it. So being here, surrounded by my people, my family, it feels very special.
Pride means to me that I'm able to accept who I am, but also accept that people won't be able to accept who I am. And be able to live with the fact that not everybody's gonna like me, but as long as I surround myself with people who like me and I like myself, then life's gonna be good.
Everyone in the LGBTQ plus community has a different journey. For some, faith in the church is a big part of that experience, even though others in the church may have different views. Here's Matthew Torres again to introduce us to some of our neighbors who practice their religions with a lot of pride.
I know! I am now a little jittery.
Don't be fooled by the nerves.
Here I am waiting.
As a deacon, Reverend T.C. Murrow,
just like that time in 2016.
Reverend T.C. Murrow usually isn't at a loss for words. But depending what happens next, she might just completely lose it.
I've been way nervous. The vote's happening now.
Murrow is about to find out if she can be ordained to become a pastor.
It's a long process for anybody in the United Methodist Church, but as a lesbian, it has been a very long process.
Murrow, an out married lesbian, has served in the church for 20 years. But as the United Methodist Church worldwide reaches a tipping point on LGBTQ acceptance, the Baltimore-Washington Conference is going down a different path.
The Board of Ordained Ministry has decided to treat all candidates the same, regardless of their sexual orientation.
Despite her sexual orientation and even pushback from her own community, being ordained is a calling, determined to spread the message that being gay and your belief can coexist.
They would know that God loves them no matter what their sexual orientation or gender identity or anything, and sharing that message is what I think is really crucial.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to A Matter of Faith, a Presby podcast.
That same message isn't shared from just a pulpit.
I am joined, as always, by the wonderful Lee Cato. Lee, how are you?
Hey Simon, I'm doing well.
At Reverend Lee Cato's home.
And it's Pride, so that's always a good thing.
It's in the form of his podcast for Presbyterian Church USA.
There are a lot of queer pastors looking for calls. There are a lot of female pastors looking for calls, immigrant.
He wants others to know there are safe and alternative spaces for members seeking a spiritual journey.
I don't think when Jesus was walking around that his idea of what the church is what we see today. The church has done a lot of damage to the queer community. My sexuality and what I identify with is divinely made.
They're voting right now.
For Murrow, it could mean divinely appointed.
I panicked for a second.
We're good.
It's just so exciting, and it's really, really inspirational.
Is that my phone blowing up?
She just found out the board voted to officially ordain her.
Some of these will be mine. Well, on Sunday, after I'm ordained, as far as I know, I'm the first out married person that put themselves forward.
It is prayer time.
Call it what you want.
May God surround us in our times of waiting.
What does it mean for your church to do that work?
But in a world of theology,
to call a queer minister to your church.
These are faces hoping to show acceptance in church isn't so black and white.
And allow for that space to be a space that is accepting and inclusive.
I will be here bringing all of who I am, so that you know that you can bring all of who you are.
But more so, colorful. And cut.
Recording stopped.
In D.C., Matthew Torres, WUSA9.
What Pride means to me is the celebration of happiness.
I think the most important thing that I can say is that after 41 years of being together with my wife, we were able to get married in 2011. And I hope the future will be better.
What Pride means to me is freedom, and love is love. Having everybody be accepted, no matter what color or creed or anything. Pride is about love.
I get to be myself and not have to hide who I am.
Pride matters to me because it's all about representation, diversity and inclusion, and everybody matters.
Everyone deserves to live in a place where they feel
like they're included and not excluded. Everyone deserves to feel like they're at home in this world. Pride matters because human rights always matter.
All right, let's talk about sports now. It's another space where some of the LGBTQ community don't always feel comfortable, but that's not the case for DC's Gay Flag Football League. Some of those players, they showed our Adam Longo how they're bringing their pride to the football field.
You run attendance off on the outside receiver. Ready?
Break. Why don't you and the team show me what you got? I'll see if I can hang.
Okay.
Cool?
Let's see it.
Let's do it.
You see that cone out there?
Mm-hmm.
Run out there, take 3 steps, and look for the ball. Ready?
Oh, Cam!
Shade up. Hey, next time. These are, I kid you not, probably some of the best athletes I've been around.
And you don't have to be gay to play in the league. You're not showing a card. There's no card.
Yeah, there's no card. But no, we have different people. We have a couple of straight girls on our team. One of them just got married last year.
Middle! Are they going to yell at me if I miss the huddle?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Just like
Just
right
straight,
off the line,
just
like a drag.
Gotcha. I got it this time.
Something about the kind of like the physical challenge of playing football and like the adversity that you have to face, that when you kind of face it and overcome it as a team, it's like a really kind of incredible feeling.
So why a gay flag football team? Why was that something that spoke to you?
Because I've always loved football. You know, played some in high school, but you know, dropped the sport because I think in part kind of being in the closet and not really feeling comfortable and welcome. So this is an opportunity for all of us who have been in a similar situation or who never started, right, because they didn't feel comfortable, to enjoy the game, because there's something intrinsic about the game that's so fun, so exciting, and we can play too, right? And we're pretty damn good.
Yeah. So I'm getting schooled and I'm getting a lot of knowledge dropped on me here.
So the wheel that you ran before where I missed you?
Yeah.
You could have had a touchdown.
Oh, okay.
It's a real family environment. We're like I said, we're competitive, but we have a lot of fun out there.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you for making me look good. I appreciate that.
Oh, great.
Nice. Thank you.
I would not have found myself if I didn't see other people display their pride, so that's why it matters to me.
Pride is for we the people, and we the people are all of us.
This is our yearly reminder that we are not going anywhere. We have always been here, and you cannot take us down without a fight.
Pride to me is like freedom to be like joyfully and like beautifully myself.
It's just a celebration of like recognizing that I can be different, but I can like be sameness in that there's sameness in my difference. Like I've never been surrounded by so many queer people in my life, and it's just really, really heartwarming to like be with people who care about me and like who celebrate who I am instead of being like, oh yeah, like that's like a little afterthought.
Personally, having gay moms is the best thing to ever happen to me, and get yourself some gay moms. Yes.
Smile, dance, sing, but know when you come away from this, you remember the crowd that you saw and the feeling that you had, which was that God loves you and that you are part of something wonderful.
Pride matters because self-expression matters. If you and your friends can't be yourself, how are you going to know who's the real you? Be who you want to be in life and be someone that other people can love.
Events like this, it make me very emotional to see how far we've come, and to see my daughter pave the way and to be able to support her is really amazing.
I love being gay. I love what DC Pride is doing for people, because I came up here this weekend and it has just made all the difference. It's liberated me. So thank you, DC Pride. Thank you, WUSA. I appreciate y'all. Happy Pride.
All right, so as you've seen, this has been a month of celebrating, reflecting, and focusing on the work that still needs to be done. We live in a special place, this community, with the freedom and resources to be who we are, celebrated, and laws in place to protect that peace. Now, even with that, it's not a rosy picture. Our transgender neighbors are still living in fear, and some students feel excluded because of anti-LGBTQ conversations taking place at school board meetings you saw. A reminder, the energy and liberation of Pride can't be limited to just a month. We need to remind those who are LGBTQ often, you do matter, your voice matters, live your truth. This is why Pride matters all year. It's about love and respect and being you. I'm Lorenzo Hall. I love y'all. See you soon.